Farm workers are begging President Ramaphosa to look into their plight as poor working conditions continue, unjust payments and evictions. They make this call as the President will be addressing the nation tomorrow evening. Joining us now on this is Claasen, the Executive Director at Rural and Farm Workers Development Organization. Billy, good evening and good to have you with us tonight.
Good evening, Tabu. Good evening to your listeners, to your viewers.
Tell me, what appeal are you making to the President? What areas of his speech do you want to address your situation?
Yes, Tabu, we always maintain that farm workers is of the most poorest of the poor, most marginalized and at-risk workers. Sometimes their living conditions are atrocious at times. And hardly a month goes by where you see farm workers in accidents on an open truck, or in a serious accident, sitting at the back of a truck and being killed or just serious injured. Also cases of injuries on duty, or maybe serious injuries and then also fatalities at work. The unnecessary death of 8 farm workers that have died in the extreme heat of the Northern Cape is still fresh in our minds. And those are some of the issues, and also others, that the President need to address tomorrow at the State of the Nation address. Farm workers being fired, evicted on a daily basis, are just some of the...
Right, Billy Claasen there. Billy, sorry we got cut off there because of that line. Hopefully you are back with us there. And you can hear us. Billy, I wanted to say there are various laws that apply to the transportation of workers by employers. I mean, these would include your Road Traffic Act, your National Land Transport Act, and so on and so forth. Are these not adequate enough to deal with this situation that you are raising? Billy?
You know, we call the President...
Yes, you can hear me?
I can't hear you.
I'm saying, did you get my question? What does the law say about the transportation of farm workers? I mean, I would want to think there are a number of laws, Traffic Act, the National Land Transport Act, the Road Accident Fund Act, the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Disease Act that could possibly address these issues that you are raising.
There's currently there is no proper legislation covering the transportation of farm workers. So we all, rest on the shoulders of the traffic departments, or maybe the farmers themselves, to put farm workers on proper transport. But currently it is open trucks. Sometimes it is closed built trucks on roads, and it is very dangerous to farm workers being transported like animals on a truck sometimes, and that is inhumane and sometimes very, very dangerous. So currently there is no legislation to cover or to combat this kind of transportation. So we need to look into it, and we plead for long for government to come up with legislation to combat this kind of transportation of farm workers.
Yeah. So if a vehicle in which farm workers are being transported is involved in an accident, what currently happens? What's the obligation of the employer if employees, for example, are injured, maybe sometimes they're deceased? What happens to the dependents and so on and so forth? Is there a place where farm workers can go claim?
Currently, there's accidents happened in the past. All that the workers can do, they can claim from the road accident fund, if it is on a national road or provincial road. And sometimes when it is on a farm or in the farm on the road, they can claim from the Department of Labor, the COIDA fund from Department of Labor. So those are all angles that angles that farm workers can claim from. Currently, there is no legislation in place, as I said, that cover farm workers all over in these kind of accidents.
As far as the ongoing evictions that farmers you say are facing on a daily basis, have you taken up this issue with the Department of Labor?
We have taken this up with the Department of Labor and also with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, under which jurisdiction it falls. Sometimes on the evictions on farms, let us think of it remind you of apartheid-style evictions. When farmers evict people, they make use of the police in their numbers with these Caspers and police vehicles, and also private security with long guns and stuff. It is like inhumane sometimes, and it is very traumatic for farm workers and also their children. And we really think that the president must look into that and maybe consider a moratorium on evictions. And when he went to speak to us, we still wait for the president to honor his commitment that he made in 2019, when he promised us that there will be a meeting with farm workers unions, and also civil society representing farm workers. We need to speak to the president to put a lot of issues on the table. Some of the issues is adequate land, and also the tenure security for farm workers.
Yeah.
We need to put these things on the table.
So Section 25, subsection 6, Section 26, subsection 3, all these things are in the Constitution, for example, that are meant to improve what you are referring to now as security of tenure for people whose tenure of land is legally insecure or as a result of past racially discriminatory laws. Why is it, do you think, that these laws are not being enforced strictly and particularly focused on farm workers?
Let me now speak more closely, and let me speak to the issues of the Western Cape. We spoke to the police, the legal unit of the police, about evictions. They was with us at a farm worker conference, and where we spoke to them about all these things. We cannot look into ESTA only, the ESTA legislation only when it comes to evictions. There is also it is also a criminal offense and also a human rights issue when it came to evictions, and they need to combine those things and look into it, not like in separately. They need to combine it and look into it as a unit and see where they can assist farm workers. But the police and the law.
All right, challenges there with Billy on that line. Billy Claasen is the Executive Director of Rural and Farm Worker Development. Billy, you're back there?
Yes.
All right, there you are. So, if I were to, let's just sum it up, because that line is giving us a challenge. You're saying that they should not only look at ESTA, but they should also look at it as a human rights violation. So, two things so far. You would want the president, for example, to call for the banning of the transportation of farm workers on trucks. But number two, you're calling for a moratorium on evictions. Further on, saying that they must look at this issue of evictions, not just based on the ESTA, but also as a human rights violation.
That's correct, yes. You know, Tabu, when you evict people from a piece of land, sometimes when the local municipality came in, and also sometimes the province came in, the Department of Rural Development, they all came in. Then the farmer will say there's alternative accommodation, and it is maybe 120 km from where you are now. Then the issue of the clinics they attend, they need to go to another clinic then with that issue. The issue of schools, the children at schools, those kind of issues. it affects the whole socio-economic livelihood of all the people involved in that eviction. And that is a stumbling block, and that is a burden sometimes for us. And it's like in worrying if these kind of things happen on farms. We really think it is inhumane, legal or illegal. Evictions are inhumane because some farmers staying for 30 to 40 years on farms, and they just been evicted with an ID photo. And that is unacceptable.
So you're calling for some kind of black economic empowerment scheme or equity scheme to be introduced, particularly for farmers who've been working on particular lands for a very long time. That you're saying this should be incorporated as their benefit?
You know, Tabu, millions have been invested for black economic empowerment through this shareholding equity schemes on farms. I know of a farm in Piketberg area that has equity schemes since 1994. And that farm workers can show nothing. When those farm workers who are shareholders of the farm, who are like co-owners of the farm, when they've been evicted from the farms, they've been fired and evicted from the farms, but they are owners of the farm. These are some schemes of farmers to double benefit from government, and also schemes for them to internationally benefit from exports, and also especially the wine farms and so on, and the export fruit and table grape farms. And we really need the president to call a full investigation into this and to see what is going on. We ask the president to put in place a more direct and flexible financial support system for farm workers in the country, and for all of them to have access to land for agricultural purposes, for economic transformation.
Issues of child labor, you're saying, are still continuing. Issues of migrant workers are also a concern for you. Just expand a little bit on that. How do you want that issue to be addressed?
You know, Tabu, the president needs to look into this thing of the issue of migrant workers. Sometimes what happened now in our area, and I will speak now of the West Coast, your table grapes, your wine grapes, wine farms currently. You can come and have a look. 80% of those workers are migrant workers from Lesotho and Zimbabwe, because farmers use these workers for cheap labor in most cases, because the South African workers, they are too clever, as they call it, and they just go to Department of Labor and all those kind of things. In most cases, most of these farmers don't even pay UIF or anything for these workers. And we really think it is not only the farmers that is the culprit here. We also have the president to look into this thing, and we plead this for long. The president or the government needs to look into this thing of labor contractors, because they are the culprits in these things. Sometimes they transport these people on open trucks, and they make the accidents on the farms, and then the farmers fold their arms and stand back. The labor contractors also needs to be addressed on farms.
Yeah. Many difficult issues, Billy. Many difficult issues. There are no easy answers to these challenges, but certainly one needs to be addressed. And I quite like the call that you are making also in the end of a broader farm worker imbizo. I mean, the president has met with farmers, emerging farmers, I know, who have organized themselves and met with the president, and he gave them an ear. Are farm workers organized in such a fashion that they would be able to come together in one room, representing all 9 provinces, for the president to be able to hear all these issues that you're raising?
You know, as I've said, in 2019, the president made a commitment on national TV. And when I asked him the question in the same city center that he will have the Sona tomorrow, He answered me and said, you will come back to the farm workers and we must start organizing. And then I wrote many emails to the president's office to organize this meeting. This meeting never happened. So we can have presidential farm working visits in all 9 provinces, and then came up with a much more cohort approach towards a national farm working vision that the president is going to head. You know, it is very difficult for us to organize farm workers. Sometimes, like in the wine industry, there's this transformation unit that's sitting there with a lot of money for social transformation also. They don't want to give our people money, our NGOs, because we are speaking against them. We're speaking out against the exploitation of farm workers. They will rather keep their money. And it is, how the hell can untransformed individuals run a transformation unit? I never heard about it. And this transformation unit, they want to keep the money in their hands and just to support the white farmers to go forward and go on. It is very difficult and very, very expensive to organize farm workers. And when you come to farms, sometimes the gates are closed and you cannot go in and to speak to the farm workers. And if farm workers dare to speak out from behind that closed gates and closed gates, they are being fired and being evicted from that farm. And these kind of things the president has to look in. We plead to the president to come to the front and really make farm workers issues and hot agenda point from tomorrow on.
Billy Claasen, we appreciate you. Thank you very much for coming on and passionately sharing that with us today. Rural and Farm Workers Development Organization Executive Director there, Billy Claasen. And of course, they are calling for President Cyril Ramaphosa on the State of the Nation address to prioritize farm worker issues as outlined there in that conversation.